Our discussion is going to be, as you heard, about AI, artificial intelligence. But we're not going to just talk about ChatGPT that everybody talks about. Obviously, we have to because everybody talks about it. But we're going to try to figure out what's the impact of the AI on us, on humans, how humans can impact the AI, and we're going to try to figure out how we can move things forward where we want it to move. So we're not just going to sit and wait for the AI to take our creative jobs. We're going to try to figure out how to live with it. Okay, I'm just going to sit right now, and I'm going to introduce my fellow panelists. So, let's start with Sarah Cox, co-founder of Neutral Human. Which most of you people know, I think, as I see. We have Chris Bird, co-founder of Disguise, United Visual Artist, and his recent endeavor, Seihan Lee, which is AI film company that's very convenient for you to sit here on the AI panel. Chris?
Not by accident.
And last but not least, Pavel Payong, founder, Percepto, creative director, and producer. Okay, we're feeling all right? Relaxed? We're going to have a relaxed discussion about a topic that might not always be relaxing in terms of, AI coming for our jobs. Maybe it won't. So the first question is, actually, before I'm going to ask my first question, I'm going to ask first question that was generated by ChatGPT. So I was thinking that what's going to be the best first opening question? And I thought ChatGPT can handle that. Maybe he can. So I asked him, look, I've got a panel called Creative AI in Films, Arts and Entertainment. What would you ask the panelist? So here it comes. It's a bit ugly, as you've already heard what ChatGPT blabs sometimes. Let's start with key examples of how AI is used in film, art, and entertainment. First, he always gives the points, right? First, deep learning algorithms that create art. Second, AI-powered music generation. Third, AI personalized experience for audiences. Fourth, chatbots. And fifth, AI and virtual reality. So I don't know who wants to start. You didn't have to.
We can postpone that.
We can postpone that because it's ChatGPT. Yeah.
The first thing we thought was, okay, bots. What do we know about bots?
Well, nothing.
Absolutely.
But we do collectively know a lot about environmental design, interaction, and have all of us used machines and machine learning real-time graphics situations. So we know about that. Can we leave the chatbot thing out?
We will, as I said. We want. It's not a panel about the chatbot. It's a panel about AI in general. So the next thing I would like to ask before, actually, let's think about the AI itself as a term. I was always against using AI in general. Then I've discovered there's another term, AGI, artificial general intelligence. So now I know we can call, that software that you have on your phone that, tries to give you some data based on the random stuff, and you can call it AI. I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that?
Actually, I'm not so good with that. And I'll tell you why. It's because I think people tend to get confused between artificial intelligence, AI, and ML, which is machine learning. And often people use those two terms sort of in place of each other. And I think they're completely different. And I'll explain why. So machine learning, which is everything one's talking about these days with ChatGPT, Runway for video tools, Midjourney, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, these are not artificial intelligence tools. Artificial intelligence is where the machine is thinking for you, making decisions for you, is like coming up with conclusions and perhaps formulating its own opinions. And there's a test for this created by Alan Turing, the British computer graphic whiz kid, you know, from the 40s. He invented modern computing. He's a father of modern computing, and he came up with a test for artificial intelligence called the Turing test, which is if the machine can convince the human that the machine is a human, then it's passed the test and it exhibits intelligence. I wouldn't say that the tools that we're perhaps talking about, ChatGPT, DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, text to image.
There are a million of them right now.
There's loads of them. They're coming out more every day. Exhibit what I would call intelligence. Instead, I would say these machine learning algorithms are tools. And I see them as a two-edged sword, in as much that on some level, they're tools which can be used to enhance the human experience, to reduce time spent on complex, boring, repetitive tasks, and improve one's ability to access like one's own creativity and unleash oneself and in the creative domain. However, at the same time, there's no denying this debate could cross over into, you know, what if these tools are used for bad things? And I think in the context of this conference, one can only consider it as how we use it for good, because otherwise we'll be here for days debating the good and the bad. However, I do think it's interesting that those people using machine learning algorithmic techniques in their creative process will fall into two categories, in my opinion. Those who will be unleashed and their creative passion will be stimulated by the use of these tools, which Sarah might talk about a bit, because you use tools, machine learning tools, because you're dyslexic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the power of AI or machine learning is that it gives us those of us that maybe have a challenge with language or with mathematics, you know, some of the neurodivergent people walking amongst us. What these tools do is actually unlock us. They disconnect us from actually what we've struggled with for a long time, which is to be caged into not being able to express ourselves and not being able to get the creative point across, because we're limited in the way that we have to think and communicate. And we don't have those right tools. So for me, AI, you know, ChatGPT, these tools have, for last year, I've really embraced them as a way to plug that gap with something that, you know, I've always had the ideas up here, but getting that to be able to a point where I can communicate that in a good enough way that people can receive that and go, okay, now I know what you mean. Yeah, they're hugely empowering.
So you don't have the problem of naming it AI, which it isn't. We should call it like chatbots, but it's not selling good, yeah? That's why they call it AI, basically, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the umbrella term, yeah.
But, and so ChatGPT from a language level can help people create business plans, write stories, write emails. Like, so this is
Briefs.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, briefs.
Even briefs.
Briefs,
and,
even
yeah.
briefs, which I think is good in some ways, but where I think it's like perhaps a little bit dangerous is when people use these tools to blatantly copy others. So if you're honest about this, so you want to make an image in the style of Pablo Picasso, right? Pablo Picasso's work is ubiquitous across the internet. It's in the public domain. Personally, I think that's okay, because Pablo Picasso himself said, good artists borrow, or at least he's attributed with this, good artists borrow, great artists steal. Yeah, Pablo
There's a
Picasso
book called Steal
Yeah.
Like an Artist.
Yeah.
Awesome book.
Exactly. And so if you're going to copy somebody's technique as an artist, all art is a distortion of what the artist has seen.
A remix.
A remix, it is. You know, it's about inspiration, artists, and not just art, like fine art, but all creative industries. If you're a lighting designer, you've spent time studying the designs of Patrick Woodruff, for example, and like you would aspire to be like him. But perhaps with the power of machine learning, you could create the ultimate lighting design by studying these things. Would it be theft if you studied all of...
No, but it become very boring.
That
That aesthetic would become very overused and dull, right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
what do you think?
We had this conversation yesterday quite long. And yeah, there are always like advantages and disadvantages of that. And it's all this machine learning, like we spoke, it's like a kid. You need to feed it and it will become what you feed it with. So
And use it as a tool,
and
not a
use it as a
replacement.
tool. So obviously, if we focus on a good thing, we can do it, because obviously it's going to turn out very badly sooner than later anyway, as the history shows us all. But if we focus first on the good things, then it's going to be very useful to us for sure. And if it comes to like studying designs or whatever, like I can imagine that, there's a moment like, okay, you can just prompt and specify, a couple of things and just come up with, if you're doing like mood boards or whatever, I mean, if we're starting talking about the creative use of it, like in our industry, and I can imagine lots of like useful examples how to use it properly, save your time, like present some concept, and anyway, it's not going to do all the work for you.
But it will help.
Remember that. I mean, it's like a representation of something. Like it depends on the data you will feed it with, but it's like for conceptual work or something. I think there's a lot of good things about it, actually.
That connects well to my next question. We have to plow through, the question that everybody thinks about and nobody wants to be asked that question. What do you think about the, near future, because it's already here, how and will, or maybe won't, the AI replace humans in the creative industry? And I'm talking in general. I'm not talking about, doing some text about briefs and stuff. I'm talking about specific our department, let's say, yeah? And would you think that AI will bring like soulless works of art that people are just gonna, inhale and just, fall asleep? Or are they gonna still look for the organic human created part? Or maybe we're just gonna cooperate and we're just gonna guide it where we want to go?
I think in the very near future, people will strive to seek out human-created art as default. I think there's a possibility that the advent of machine learning and AI in the creative industries will actually purify the human creative spirit without using machine learning. People might reach out and look for things like, made by humans as a label.
What if they
Maybe
cannot
that's
tell the difference?
idea, to create a demand on the market back, like a circle, It's maybe that's the secret reason, like to sell and buy human-made art for ridiculous prices. Who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly. This is what I mean. It could distill it into a higher form. But don't forget, with all of these machine learning techniques, there still needs to be a human involved. And fundamentally, this is what I think makes it different from artificial intelligence, machine learning tools, is that the human makes the choice, ultimately, whether this iteration or that iteration is the best one. And then, so I don't know if anyone here has used Midjourney or DALL-E or Stable Diffusion. It gives you an option. You can throw it away. You don't like it. You make another option, another iteration, or you get 4 options and you choose. And you can evolve that design, but you fundamentally make the choice. So I think in this case, there's always a human involved, and which is a good thing. The question is how many humans' jobs could be at stake. For example, we were talking yesterday in terms of the lighting programmer. Somebody's going to choose this look or that look, but the guy's doing the patching and the DMX channel assignment. This is, difficult, time-consuming work. Could this be done easier and better by an AI? Automatically, just automate it. You need half the technicians on a production. You just keep the creatives. I mean, is this a good thing?
Avoid it,
I think any task in the near future, if not even today, that could be automated is potentially at risk. from being replaced by a machine learning tool. But that doesn't mean that that human won't find an alternative role in a more creative way, particularly in the industry that we're in, where there's a lot of manual, physical work in terms of stage build, stage rigging. You know, it's in some ways the creatives whose jobs are at risk, and in some ways they're the ones most liberated.
Yeah, I think that the snowball is rolling anyway.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can't stop it.
it's
You can't
better
stop
to
it.
it's better to adapt it and then just think, you know, positive way about it and like the most useful creative ideas instead of just trying to like, you know, convince everybody that this doesn't exist or it's bad. You know, it's not going to happen. I mean, the ball is rolling already.
I think there was I think it was like 2017, there was a big moment where AI was accepted in that, you heard of the game Go in South Korea, where they were playing it against a Google AI, the best player in the world at this game Go.
And they said it's unbeatable.
They said it's
Machine is
absolutely
like chess,
unbeatable.
okay, chess is good, and
And
it
it's
did
called-
it before.
It's called Move 37. If you Google that and look at Move 37, it's like the moment where the AI, this is what I find really exciting for the future of creatives in this industry, the moment that the AI made a move that no human would ever have conceived possible, because we'd never been taught that that was an acceptable way to play this game. So the AI in Move 37 does something that is unthinkable to anybody who knows the game. And it completely, in a second, changes everything about that game. And then he comes back in Move 78.
And everybody thought that it's a bad move, and it wasn't a bad move.
wasn't. He
Because
won-
the
he won
AI
the game.
planned it.
Exactly.
It planned the bad move.
But this is the thing, like, if you're a creative, I was talking to Mickey about this earlier as well, you're used to working in an isolated, quite a solo environment up here, and you're trying to communicate with your team around you to translate that properly into the assets they're creating or the video design work they're doing, and you're constantly trying to get that message across. And you're stuck up here. But actually what AI can do is get in your head. So if you train a model with your work, with your aesthetic and your look and feel, it can push you past what you even think possible about your own creative process. That's really exciting. That for me is like lifting the lid off of what an individual can achieve from their creative process by having that wing person that is in that AI.
Yeah, and there's like this factor of randomness, like coincidental, accidental, you know, synthesis. Like, you know, with the creative process or like on a conceptual design, you can really, you know, get something out that you will never like experience before, like doing by yourself or something. With this, like the randomness and the accidental, coincidental thing in it is also kind of exciting, you know, because then it's like you said, you can just, okay, next one, next 10, next 10, next 10, and then you can just, you know, find out something that is completely, absolutely unique. And still, there's like a hell lot of work to be done around it to make it like a real project or production or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same like stage, like, you know, on the conceptual design or content design or stage design or whatever, designing process, I find it very useful actually. Like I never use it, like obviously, but you know, collecting all the informations. But it's still like at the very beginning, you know, it's like with the AI art, Stable Diffusion. At some point it just came up, you know, just be kind of interesting, but then it started to be very boring actually, because lots of people were starting doing the same thing, like morphing pictures, whatever. And now again, it's like a next wave where people are trying to use it more in a conscious way, more like control it, like the effect out of it and all that stuff, which again, it's starting to be kind of interesting. But I think it's gonna like keep rolling, developing, and yeah, it's just a beginning actually.
So just sum up a little bit. It's all positives, no negatives. I'm not thinking that actually, but I'm going to say that anyway. What if we cannot tell the difference? Because sooner or later it's going to come. The content's going to come that you cannot tell the difference, whether there was a little, a lot, or non-input from the humans. And the audience doesn't have the explanation. Should we like give, like, you know, on cigarettes that you can get cancer On the video, it should say
Health warning.
that it was like 0% human or 5% human or whatever.
Come on, we are humans, you know.
After all.
It doesn't work this way
but,
anyway.
all of
It just
digital-
make it more like, you know.
But all of digital art, you know, photography, advertising, film, TV, like anything that's represented in a digital medium has probably been, prior to AI, prior to machine learning, has probably been adjusted in some way. You know, we are bombarded. I've got two girls, right, and they're looking at they're looking at stuff on the internet. I'm conscious completely about the fact that you know, women tend to be represented in a particular way, particularly more than men. You know, they're heavily photoshopped in the digital media. It's not AI doing this, right? It's humans doing that. You can't tell whether that's a real person. And if you see these before and after shots, you know, quite often it's quite surprising. I think, so is it a real photo or not? I think this is a thing that goes back way before AI, is what I'm saying. However, I do think that there's scope for there being some kind of like made by AI or some kind of embedded like QR code type a key that states whether this is an artificial image or an artificial film or not. Because there is one strand where this conversation could go, which is about spreading misinformation, disinformation, be it text or image-based throughout the internet when it's generated by
You're talking
machine
about
learning.
the bad usage
I'm
of...
talking about the bad stuff, yeah, where it would be incredibly useful if people could determine whether this was actually written by a human or generated by a machine. But at the same time, you have a choice as a human whether to read or whether to listen to these things. I mean, the internet is full of all sorts of garbage, which is written by people.
Well, at the end of the day,
I just don't read that stuff.
it's a tool, right? Like
Yeah.
a knife. You can cut bread with it and you can harm people with it. So you can
That's
do
it.
bad stuff with it. So
There is really a potential that these tools, if used in the wrong way or falling into the wrong hands, could be used for bad things. And that is a danger. That is a danger. However, as an optimist myself, and as a creative, I like to look at like what good things you can do with tools. And I see it almost like when photography came out. You know, what change was that? Before that, portraits were painted by hand, and suddenly there's a camera, and then
it's
film.
the same but faster.
Film and those original photographers were not perceived as being artists, but you wouldn't think any famous photographer like David Bailey these days is not an artist. You know, they are an artist and a master craftsman. And I think you'll find in the future there'll be master craftsmen of AI prompting or using machine learning to create the most wondrous things. And, you know, the other benefits, like things like how it could be applied to things like protein design or drugs or medicine or things that could solve things like green energy and in areas that we haven't really even yet considered. So yeah, it's early days.
And it's like, it looks like it's going to be a full-time job, you know, for sure.
Well,
and as we all sit here, I mean, we are all excited about, you know, this creative AI can be used in a film industry, actually. We had a lot of conversation about it early on and other days. And that's pretty interesting concept. And you can always, like, you know, push it or find the bad things about anything else. But once you can just dive into a positive, then like the creative AI in a film, on a set and on the set design and all that stuff is extremely exciting topic for me. Like, you know, what I saw, and we had this whole conversation, like generative, segmented, you know, images, like you can just they can just pop up on the screen on a LED volume and in a second, or let's say, depends on the complexity, but that's something really excited. And if we're here also to talk about creative AI, that's, or machine learning, it's like, that's one of the samples that it's super excited for me, actually.
I think we might go a little bit down to the ground with the topic because we went to the cloud a little bit. So let's ground ourselves in what do you think is the best approach to focus on to find yourself in the near or far future where we will use it anyways. So, or maybe let's rephrase that. Imagine that you just started working in the creative industry and you know that it's over there, the AI, it's, you know, on the back of your head, and what to focus on, what to learn, where to go, where to find resources, you know, to find yourself in the future.
But also, it's about, you know, being angry and hungry, and it's
Like
about curiosity also, like to grow, to learn, to develop. Like the choice is yours always, but it's something that it's just, you know, you should put your hands on, like just to know, to learn, to have your own opinion, and like to find your own ways how to use it, and all that stuff. You know, it's definitely worth to put your hands on.
Yeah. What about some like practical examples?
It's about basic curiosity. Like if you're creative or technical artist or whatever, it's about like a basic curiosity about it. Like if this can fit somehow to your process, if it can save your time, make something simple better or whatever, it's just worth it. And that's it. And then we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the resources that I tend to pull to is called, the website is creative-ai.org. That is an incredible website.
Once again.
Creative-ai.org. That website actually serves content around creative AI in different ways. It's filled with white papers, seminars, talks. Then it has tools, a tools section, and you can dive into understanding anything from generative music AI down to text to image. But as a website, it's sort of pulling together quite well everything that is being discussed around the generative AI creative industries and putting it into one place and giving you quite an easy library methodology of sifting through it and trying to stay up to date. Chris is a big advocate of Twitter and has actually inspired me again to maybe log back into Twitter after about 5 years.
Yeah, the good thing about Twitter, in my opinion, is you can follow individuals. So if you like somebody's individual style in terms of the way they're generating images, you follow them and they're regularly telling you how they do it. They're telling you the prompts and they're putting examples of their imagery. Furthermore, if you're interested in digital cinema, then you can follow Industrial Light and Magic, or you can follow the American Cinematographer or British Cinematographer magazines. If you're into stage, if you're into design, generally speaking, design 3D. But to get back, where do I get my stuff from? Well, I generally go through Twitter and follow people. But to get back to your question, like, where would somebody coming into the industry go to if they were like thinking about getting into design or creative design? In the new world of AI, I would get back to the fact that I don't think AI and machine learning is going to replace humans in any of these jobs. You still need to learn to be a cameraman, or to be a video editor, or a compositor,
or a fine artist,
like a color corrector in film. You still need to be a lighting programmer and operate a lighting console. You need to learn color theory. You need to learn about DMX. You need to learn about 3D design, stage design. Right? You've got to still do that.
Yeah, but in theory, you can create all this data and stuff, like, with some of you just mentioned. But, I mean...
In theory, you could, but that's not happening. And even if you wanted to, okay, I'm not going to become an illustrator anymore. I'm going to just learn Mid-Journey to create illustrative images. You have to learn how to do it. You have to spend hours and hours.
You need to know the language.
Thousands of iterations before you start becoming good. That's at least what I learned from all the top AI artists I follow on Twitter.
So basically we should teach our kids how to paint, not how to program.
I think
Both.
you'll need to learn how to paint, how to program, and how to prompt.
How to join it all together, how to fuse it together. So
That's
the output is...
It's a new tool. It doesn't replace the old tools. It complements them. And for example, in the company I'm representing, Seihan Lee, we're creating a generative background image tool for the virtual production stage environment, because the classic way of doing it is to create these images digitally, like take photos and then segment them into three-dimensional objects by hand using Photoshop. And it takes hours and days, in fact many days, and can be incredibly expensive. So we're developing a tool which speeds that process up, but at the same time gives more creative opportunities, because you can imagine a background and you know how to prompt, you can create any background.
And exactly, these tools can be used also for any conceptual design. Like that's the good example, because I just mentioned about this AI for movie, and this is, we can tell the name. Yeah, that's the Kubrick stuff, you know, and it's super exciting, and it still needs a lot of, you know, but it's new, but it's just give you like a perspective that it's super exciting, you know. If it comes to like the point that you can really use it in all the way like you need, and the quality and everything, it's going to be super useful, time saving, and on creative like level also, like you can just play with it, you can test it, you can do whatever, like, and it's going to take like seconds, minutes, not days, weeks, yeah, like working with a creative team or a team of graphic designers or whatever, just to see something and decide, maybe not, maybe I don't like it, so spend another 2 weeks or 2 days or 3 days, just create something new for me. This is done, like it's not going to be needed anymore, you know.
And further to that, it's not just saving time, it's adding the opportunity
Value.
to create. It's adding the opportunity to create. And for the people who perhaps can't afford the expensive route. So for example, with Kubrick that we're making at Seihan Lee, it allows people who couldn't afford to create a full Unreal Engine 3-dimensional environment in a virtual production stage.
So they have the 2.5D.
To make a 2.5D segmented
like a
image,
parallax,
which can cost them
and looks still good
dollars,
on the camera,
right?
yeah.
And it still looks great in front of the camera. But it's also useful for people making computer games and for people doing Unreal productions. So this tool is basically, what I hope to say is democratizing the creative services industry. This tool, Kubrick, but also tools that other people are making. For example, Runway, which is an online video editing toolkit. So you can go in, we could film ourselves and then replace that film in the style of anything else you want. So it means that creative people who don't have access to full video editing toolkit or computer graphic toolkit.
Is that tool that you can like place bottles and film bottles, and they say the bottles are buildings?
It's
Is
called
that
Gen 1 by Runway.
That's
It
scary.
It's incredible. It means that you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a video editing suite or on
Or build a set.
Yeah, exactly, or build a set. You can like film stuff in your bedroom, and I think this is fascinating, particularly in the age where everyone's got a screen in their hands and like consuming content.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, isn't it? Like
people can create.
Content is becoming everything. Like already through the pandemic, we're all content creators now. We've got this device in our pockets and we're making content. But I think what's happened is the democratization of the tools to enable you to make high quality content has been very much an elitist approach, where you have to have a very expensive laptop, you have to have the latest GPU technology to be able to get to that level of fidelity, look and feel. What these tools will do is democratize, giving everybody the ability to make mediocre, if not into the high quality content, but it will then differentiate those that can creatively apply the same tool. In my opinion, I think that actually accelerates the art that is produced while everybody else is allowed to catch up and take part. And that's really important, because at the moment with XR virtual production, it is unachievable for a lot of people from a content perspective.
I was trying to ask, so how are we going to compete? But you cannot answer that question. We won't compete on the same terms as we compete right now.
No.
The stage is going to be changed, like reversed. So it's not going to be the same stage that we're going to compete
And it
on.
sort of already has, if you look at the internet, like 2D content, the way that we now use Canvas and these tools and to make engaging posts and stuff, that's become something that all of us can now do. So we've already democratized that from a 2D perspective. And now what we're going to do is do it from a generation of 3D and real-time content.
Generative content.
Yeah.
So basically, it's not all bleak. It's more in...
There are dark sides.
Of course.
But it's not all
like with
bleak, no.
everything, yeah? every single technology innovation, every single, you know, like, we thought that people will lose all jobs where robots are, you know, welding, and the welders could become, you know, programmers of the robots, right? So I think I'm going to go around to a little question that I was not supposed to ask, but I will, about the kids. So what to do with the young generation? I have a kid myself, 7 years old, and I just, like a lot of people, they don't know what to do with them, how to guide them, where to, if it's just, you know, painting, programming, all of it, you cannot teach everything, right? And what if, you know, painters are gonna be all created by AI, and you just spend, you know, 7 years trying to teach him how to paint?
Keep them engaged in playing outside first.
Playing outside,
That's
yeah.
important, yeah.
Yeah. I
Than
mean, I
everything
have two
else.
kids, and one paints all the time, and the other makes movies on her phone. And she's the young 8-year-old one. She loves making movies of herself and wants to now be a I introduced her to stop frame animation, and now she's built herself a little stop frame animation studio, which is about the most analog way of creating video content you can get. And she's modeling in clay, but she's taking photos, she's doing lighting, she's doing the whole thing. So I would say, like, from that perspective, you know, I think you'd be surprised how kids these days know about the internet
And how they
internet
adapt.
security, and how to, like, you know, stay away from, like, you know, not divulge their information, all of this kind of stuff. I think it's built into them these days. Like, when we grew up without computers, we had to learn that stuff and, you know, make some mistakes. But certainly I can speak for my kids. They're pretty safe, and they're looking forward into a world where everyone's had a phone in their hands since they were young babies, right? You know, it's everywhere for them.
This is what they see, like the parents, you know, taking, you know, the phones all the time, like
only the parents
either
who are
like
scared.
calling or just scrolling or do whatever. So they know that this is kind of important thing in your hand, you know. And my kid is like drawing by hand every day, but at the same time, next hour, she's drawing, you know, using iPad application for drawing, and it's a different type of drawing, you know, and it's like doing both. Like, what you can do is just showing the options, the opportunities, and then showing and just, you know, let her pick and just explain your point of view, and you know, she or he will discover by itself, like, what's good or what's bad in a way, or the perspective they have. But it's just like, you know, keep the balance, you know. It's not like, you know, okay, so yeah, you need to learn how to program, or you need to do it and that. No, it's just about to keep the balance, like, you know. But as I said, like, keep them engaged playing outside, you know, not spending hours sitting, you know, in front of the monitor. That's kind of the most important, you know.
Yeah, I think it's from the younger generation that I've seen and spoken to as well, that they value experience a lot more than our generation. Like, we kind of got swept away in the digital transformation, and we took for granted we'd had the analog experiences and the hands-on and the sensory things. But the younger generation is willing to spend the time, the money in achieving that again, because they grew up with the digitization and perhaps didn't have all of those sensory experiences that we had. So I mean, there is two parallels here happening. There is the virtualization and digitization of our entertainment experiences, but alongside that there is a renaissance back to sensory and wanting to have that interactive, personalized moment. And that's not going to be achieved with a headset on. So it's about balance. It's making sure that they're growing up with understanding like we did, with the analog and the digital. Understanding.
Don't burn witches, but just, you know, if she here wants to program, then help them, you know, help them to do it. But at the same time, keep the balance, like, show there's world outside, like, show there's, like, you can do this and that, and still support with programming or getting, you know, in virtual or whatever, but show the other world existing at the same time. Keep the balance, and that's I think that's the key.
So let's just, like, try to sum up what we discussed, because we're...
Good luck.
Good luck with that, yeah?
Use ChatGPT.
Okay, let me just, you know, type... No. So when I was preparing myself for this talk, I thought that it's a little bit bleak. But now when we've spoken, it's not that bad. I mean, the future is bright, is it?
Definitely the future's bright. And as we've touched on, yes, there's a possibility that some more repetitive tasks will be automated by machine learning.
And people will get more creative because they're
And
gonna
that
have
some
some
people's
time.
jobs potentially will be at risk
Yeah.
as a result of that. That there will be more jobs created in terms of like managing, controlling, guiding these tools and relearning new ways to do things in a faster and better and more efficient way. And I believe that we'll produce more amazing imagery and art, more amazing movies, more amazing music, more amazing films, more amazing interactive and installation art. And, as we touched on it a little bit, some people who are against this new way of doing things will champion the fact that this particular thing, this sculpture was made by humans. An AI cannot paint by hand, cannot carve stone.
Yet.
Yet.
No, we're
So
not
I
talking
think
about
there'll be a
far
renaissance
future.
in
We're
humans.
granted. Sarah, what do you think about the future is bright or bleak? Or?
I do. I absolutely do. I think that it's a real levelling up. I know that this is like a British government statement, but this is the excitement of what a digitised future in terms of the metaverse, whatever that is in the next decade, and all of these things, when they connect together, give humanity an opportunity to really level up. Like somebody in India who hasn't had the education that somebody maybe in Beijing has had will have the same access to the tools, the same opportunity to learn and grow from that tool set, and present on that same stage in a leveled up world. But there is a dark side, and I think that the only thing I would say is that we all have an individual responsibility to how we use these tools and what we do with them, and we can only look at ourselves in the mirror and say that is ethical and I'm morally sound with that, but it's humanity, so I think we'll inevitably go into the dark side.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that we can enjoy the near future because it looks a bit bright, but in a longer perspective, I'm afraid, frankly speaking, it's not so bright. Yeah, I think it's gonna turn very dark sooner than later, anyway. But so it's just
But let's hope
enjoy the moment.
We're gonna figure out how to live with that, and with that, it was a blast talking with you. It was a privilege, and thank you very much. I hope to see you again. Thank you for listening, and to the next endeavor. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.